Hello, children. I, Anita Vikas Kadam from HA School, Pimpri, managed by Deccan Education Society, welcome you all yet another study time. Now, let's continue with the English lesson, Let's March, the second part of it. Are you ready? A quick recap about Kailash Satyarthi. He's an Indian children's rights and education advocate and an activist against child labor. He founded the Bachpan Bachao Andolan in 1980 and has acted to protect the rights of more than 83,000 children across 144 countries. And we have been seeing the speech that he delivered at the time of receiving Nobel Peace Prize of 2000. Let's see part 2. We can do it. You may ask that, what can one person do? I would recall a story of my childhood. A heavy fire had broken out in the forest. All the animals were running away, including lion, the king of the forest. Suddenly, then he saw a tiny bird rushing towards the fire. He asked the bird, "What are you doing?" To the lion's surprise, the bird replied, "I'm going to extinguish the fire." The lion laughed and said, "How can you do it? Keeping just one drop of water in your beak?" The bird was adamant, and she said, "I'm doing my bit." Isn't it a wonderful story, children? When the fire broke out and when all animals were running, all powerful animals were frightened and they were running away from there. And the lion, the king of the jungle itself, was running and saw a bird, a tiny bird coming towards the fire. And when asked what was it doing, it said, "I'm going to extinguish the fire." With what? With one drop of water that she collected and brought. And when the king of the jungle laughed on it, it said, "I'm doing my work." And it was an adamant. It was not, going to listen to anybody, but do what she was supposed to do. And if everybody feels that I'm doing my bit of job, Kailash Satyarthi wants to remind us we can do it. 18 years ago, millions of individuals marched across the globe and demanded a new international law for the abolition to stop the worst form of child labor. And it has happened. We did it. Millions of individuals did it. So it was not one person who said that stop child labor, or not somebody, a group of people who did it. Everybody from all the countries, they had a march, and that's how they have to bring a law to stop this child labor. So when everybody does their own bit of work, you can do big work with the fraction of time. Friends, we live in an age of rapid globalization. We are connected through high-speed internet. That's right, no, children? We are talking about, connecting everybody. The whole earth has become a global village. Then exchange of goods and service in one single global market. Thousands of flights every day connect us from one corner to another corner of the globe. But there is one serious disconnect. When so much of connection is there, network connection is there, flight connection is there, you'd name it, the business connection is there. When all these connections are there, but still there is something disconnect. And what is it? It's nothing but there is lack of compassion. Lack, shortage, no compassion. What is compassion? Pity, concern, feel for others' suffering. In this global world where everything is connected, by heart we are disconnected. Therefore, we are not able to feel the pain, what others are going through when these children are going and working. Let us inculcate and transform this individual's compassion into a global compassion. So from the beginning, you are seeing, students, that he is talking about the world as a whole thing. Let everybody's compassion get connected. And let us, if you want to globalize something, you don't have to globalize the business, you don't have to globalize the education, globalize the compassion. When everybody feels for others, then it will be a wonderful place to stay. Mahatma Gandhi said, if we are to teach real peace in this world, we shall have to begin with children. What a right way of quoting it. If children are happy, then there will be peace in this world. I humbly had. Let us unite the world through the compassion for our children. I ask, whose children are they who stitch footballs yet never played with one? It's happening, no, children? You see some children selling things, the toys on the footpath or on the near the signals. They are selling toys. But do they get an opportunity to play with those toys? The children who are stitching the football and making it so beautiful for other children to play, are they not having that right to play? Whose children are they who harvest cocoa, who plant cocoa, who cultivate it, but they never taste chocolates? Whose children are they who are dying of Ebola? Ebola is a virus, just like the one which we are going through. Yes, right, Corona. The same manner, children were dying of Ebola in those times. Whose children are they who are kidnapped and held hostage? If the terrorists want anything, any demand, they catch hold of these innocent children and they want to fulfill their demand. They keep them as hostage. They don't release them. But whose children they are? They are all our children. So they are not children of one particular country or one family who's staying somewhere far. If they are children, it is our children. I remember an 8-year-old girl we rescued from intergenerational forced labor from stone quarries. Where stone quarries are there and people are working, they some is to take the children also to work them. Why do you think that they hire children? Because they have to pay them less. And why the parents are keeping them? They can't afford to send them to school. And here he has introduced to us a new word, intergenerational. Means what? From several generations, they are in this bonded labor, that they have to work there itself. When the children are born, even they have to work. So in this kind of way, when an 8-year-old girl was rescued, and she was sitting in my car right after her rescue, she asked me, why did you not come earlier? Look at the questions. It's like you've been working, but why didn't you come before? My parents, my grandparents would have been liberated. Things would have been different. And they have all these questions. Her angry question still shakes me and has the power to shake the whole world. Her question is for all of us. Very rightly saying that she did not ask this question only to Kailash Satyarthi, who went to rescue her, who went to help her, who went to free her. But this question is for you and me. This question is for all of us. What are we doing? What are we waiting for? How many girls will we allow to go? without rescue? Are we just sitting, quieting, and watching? So many people are entrapped. Children are questioning our inaction. So these children are, they are not only silent, but when they have questions, their questions are so powerful. They're not only asking that, why are you doing this? But they're also asking us, why aren't you doing this? So not only their action, but inaction. Hence, no action. Why don't you act upon it? And watching our action. The children are good observers. They keep watching the elders, what they do, what they don't do. We need collective actions with a sense of urgency. So he's saying that it's a time has come now that urgently we need to take action, and not a person, but a group as such. We need to take all these actions. Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters. So in that case, why are we just sitting and doing nothing for them? Therefore, I challenge the passivity and pessimism surrounding our children. Passivity, as I told you, inaction. So here, no action. Sometimes we see, we hear, we understand, but we fail to take any action. We remain passive. And therefore, he is challenging us all this passivity and all this pessimism. Pessimism, negativity, opposite of. So this pessimism, negativity, he wants to challenge. Surrounding our children, I challenge this culture of silence. Here we have a culture, we have something. We will not open our mouth. We, out of respect, will not say anything. But if that is going to help somebody, if you are staying quiet will harm somebody, if your staying quiet will make children suffer and go through child labor, then what good is that remaining quiet? I challenge this culture of silence and this culture of passivity, this culture of neutrality. And there is also something called, I'm not supporting, but you are not helping also. That is remaining neutral. I'm not into this team, nor am I into that. But then what are you into? You're not into anything. You're just neutral. I call upon all the governments, intergovernmental agencies, businesses, faith leaders, workers, teachers, and NGOs, and each one of us to put an end to all the forms of violence against children. So he's not only saying that it is the government's job or it is the intergovernmental, it is about the people in the religious places or the workers or NGOs, non-governmental organization. But he's saying that I'm telling each one of us, I'm telling the teachers, I'm telling the students, I'm telling everybody what? To put an end to the violence against children, which each and every one of us can do it. Slavery, slavery, making people work, making children work. Then trafficking, picking up children and making them beg and do any other work. That is trafficking. Child marriages, which is against the law. Child labor, sexual abuse, and illiteracy. So these all have to be stopped. These things have no place in any civilized society. We are talking about that because of science and technology, because of globalization, because of all the good things that has been happening, we are living in a civilized society. We are living in an educated society. We are living in a happy society. But if in that case, why are these things followed? If any one of those things are present in the society, it cannot be called as a civilized society. Friends, we can do this. Underline that. We, not that I or you. It's we, the power of we. Governments must make child-friendly policies and invest in education and young people. Businesses must be more responsible, accountable, and open to innovative partnerships. So like government, which all the policies are made that should be child friendly, related, happy, helpful for them. Then the businesses should be innovative, new ideas needs to be there, and it should be accountable, responsible. Intergovernmental agencies must work together. Intergovernmental, from one country to another country, all these, they should work together for accelerate action, accelerate, to take more speed in the action. Global civil society must rise above the business as usual and fragmented agendas. So when the global society is there, it should overlook all the fragments. What are these fragments? The boundaries that this country, this boundaries, this fragment, this broken pieces should not be taken into consideration, work as a whole. Faith leaders and institutions and all of us must stand with our children. If all these things are done, dare somebody ask the child to go for child labor or to have illiteracy, all these things may vanish. We must be bold. We must be ambitious. And we must have the will. So it is not only the matter of remaining bold. Okay, I'm bold, I can do a lot of things. But if your ambition is missing, what good is that boldness? If you do not have the willpower, strong willpower, what is good of that ambition? So we must keep our promises. We all make promises when we are, a time when we come, we make promises. But do we keep it? Over 50 years ago, on the first day of my school, I met a cobbler boy, my age, sitting outside the gate of my school. I asked my teachers, why is he working outside? Why is he not with us in school? My teachers had no answer. So, Kailash Satyarthi did not one fine day grew up, and then he understood, oh, this is the problem of children, and then he started doing something. No. This thing happened with him right from the day when he went to school, the first day when he went to school. And he thought that, like him, all children are going to school. And then when on the way to school, he saw a cobbler boy sitting outside the gate of his school. And what he must be doing is either polishing the shoes or stitching the footwear of others. His age, he is a child just like him, and he is not inside the school campus, he is outside the school gate. And this little Satyarthi had questions in his mind. And when he had question, he just did not remain quiet. He went and asked the teacher, why is he working outside? He should be with us inside the school. And the teacher had no answer. One day, I gathered the courage to ask the boy's father. So, little Satyarthi was so disturbed that how come all children are not into school, but some children are not even enjoying their childhood, they are into work. And he actually went to the principal also to ask about it. And one fine day when he saw that child's father, he went and asked, sir, I have never, and when he asked him, the child's father said, I've never thought about it. We are born to work. Can you imagine what must have happened? When he heard this answer, he said that we are born, but we are born only to work. Did God send us like that? Does anybody say that this family has to only work? Or this community has to only work? They are not children. They don't have to enjoy their childhood. His answer made me angry. It still makes me angry. As a child, I had a vision of tomorrow, a vision of that cobbler boy sitting with me in my classroom. So, Kailash Satyarthi had that vision for child labor right from that particular time. And he started, not only remained quiet, he actually started working from that time itself. What he can do to see that all children come to school. He is to collect the children, and on the day of their report, he is to wait outside with a big box or something, and he is to ask the parents, now your children have passed, they are going to go to the next class. Can you give their old books to us? And then parents is to give away, because otherwise also they are going to throw away the books, no? When you go to the next class, a new set of book comes. So what to do with the old one? You and I must have also done that. But he is to collect those old books, and he is to give those books to the needy people, so that more children would come to school, and they used to not be afraid of where to get the money to buy the books. So, this all he was doing when he was of your age, or much smaller than that. So, as a child, he had a vision that a cobbler boy should be sitting with me in my classroom. And that day is today. I am today. And you are today. Today, it is time for every child to have the right to life, right to freedom, right to health, right to education, right to safety, right to dignity, right to equality, and right to peace. So today, every child should have all these rights. Today, beyond the darkness, I see the smiling faces of our children in the blinking stars. Today, in every wave of every ocean, I see my children are playing and dancing. So when the children are happy, and when he sees all these glimpses in the blinking stars, in the ocean waves, today, in every plant, in every tree and mountain, I see our children growing freely with dignity. So when children are enjoying, when children are climbing trees, climbing mountains, happily playing in the sunlight, playing with the water, dreaming, he's happy because the children are growing with dignity, with respect. Friends, I want to see and feel this today inside you. My dear sisters and brothers, as I said, many interesting things are happening today. May I please request you to put your hand close to your heart. Close your eyes. Children, you can also do it. Just keep your hand near to your heart and close your eyes and feel the child inside you. What is that child asking for? Can you see more children like that? Is that child in you happy? Feel it, children. I'm sure you can. Now, listen to that child. Listen, please. I'm sure something must have crossed your mind. Today, I see thousands of Mahatma Gandhis, Nelson Mandelas, and Martin Luther Kings calling on us. Let us democratize knowledge. Democratize, make democratic. What to democratize? Not only the government. Only the government need not be democratic government. The knowledge has to be democratized. Let us universalize justice. Justice for everyone on this universe. Together, let us globalize compassion. As said earlier, Let us start feeling the pity and concern for others, for all the people across the globe. I call upon you in this room and all across the world. I call for a march. So he is inviting each one of us. Each one of us, he wants us to walk, march. You understand, no, children? Marching. All people walk together in a rhythm, in the same aim. That is called marching. Now he is inviting us for a march. March from exploitation. Exploitation, undue advantages, right? From there you have to move, go, march, walk away to what? From exploitation, you have to march towards education. I call a march from poverty to shared prosperity. So you need not be into poverty, but you have to walk to prosperity. And that is a choice. And that is education. And that is humanity. A march from slavery, a bondage labor to liberty. Liberty, freedom. And a march from violence to peace. This all is possible if we start moving. And along with our movement, take all the people and move forward towards peace, towards prosperity, towards education, towards liberty. So he's asked us to let's march. Let us march from ignorance to awakening. So need not remain ignorant, need not remain uneducated, but let there be awakening. Let us march from darkness to light. The aim of education itself, that to move from darkness to light. Let us march from mortality to divinity. So instead of, death rate, instead of that, let it be for divinity. And the call is, let us march. Hey children, where are you heading to? I understand you are on your toes to continue the march. That's the spirit. Keep continuing and make this place a wonderful place to stay. Goodbye, children.